Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. And this is taken from Canto 2, which is entitled The Cosmic Manifestation. Chapter 6, which is entitled Purusha Shukta Confirmed. And this morning we're doing text 34. I'll start with, start with the Jaya Madhava, then come to this. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Pradijana Ranjana Yashodanandana Pradijana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Jana Girivadadari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Kishodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramhansa Privajikacharya Stotra Satashichi Maharas Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Itilila Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramhansa Privajikacharya Stotra Satashichi Maharas Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai ISKCON founder Charja Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Sri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Sri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shama Veda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premalande Hari Hari Ko. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Shri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Nityanami. Namaste Vishnu Padaya Prabhupada Sutaya Sri Guru Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Excuse me. Narayana Namaskritya Narom Chaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Ujirayat Nashta Prayesva Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, Text 34. Name bhāratī minga mṛṣopalakṣyate navai kvacin me manaso mṛṣā name hṛṣīkāṇi patanty asat-pathe yanme hṛdautkaṇṭhyavatā dhṛto hariḥ bhāratī minga mṛṣopalakṣyate navai kvacin me manaso mṛṣā name hṛṣīkāṇi patanty asat-pathe yanme hṛdautkaṇṭhyavatā dhṛto hariḥ bhāratī mengam mṛṣopalakṣyate navai kvacin me manaso mṛṣā name hṛṣīkāṇi patanty asat-pathe yanme hṛdautkaṇṭhyavatā dhṛto hariḥ. Hare Krishna.
Na bhāratī me jnana mṛṣopalakṣyate, na chai kvacin me manaso mṛṣā, na me hṛṣīkāṇi patanty asat-pathe, yan me hṛdautkaṇṭhyavatā dhṛto hariḥ. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Na bhāratī menga mṛṣopalakṣyate naiva kvacin me manaso mṛṣā gatiḥ na me hṛṣīkāṇi patanty asat-pathe yan me hṛdautkaṇṭhyavatā dhṛto hariḥ. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Na bhāratī menga mṛṣopalakṣyate na vai kvacin me manaso mṛṣā na me hṛṣīkāṇi patanty asat-pathe yan me hṛdautkaṇṭhyavatā dhṛto hariḥ. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else? Word for word. Hare Krishna. Na, never. Bhāratī, statements. Me, mine. Anga, O Nārada. mṛṣā, on truth. Upalakṣyate, prove to be. Na, never. Very certainly. Kvacin, at any time. Me, mine. Manasa, of the mind. mṛṣā, on truth. Gatiḥ, progress. Na, nor. Me, mind. hṛṣīkāṇi, the senses. Patanty, degrades. Asat-pathe, in temporary matter. Yat, because. Me, mind. Hṛda, heart. hṛdautkaṇṭhyavatā, by great earnestness. Dhṛto, caught hold of. hariḥ, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O Nārada, because I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, hariḥ, with great zeal, whatever I say has never proved to have been false, nor is the progress of my mind ever deterred, nor are my senses ever degraded by temporary attachment to matter. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Brahma is the original speaker of Vedic wisdom to Nārada, and Nārada is the distributor of transcendental knowledge all over the world through his various disciples like Vyasadeva and others. The followers of Vedic wisdom accept the statements of Brahmaji as gospel truth, and transcendental knowledge is thus being distributed all over the world by the process of disciplic succession from time immemorial since the beginning of the creation. Lord Brahma is the perfect liberated living being within the material world, and any sincere student of transcendental knowledge must accept the words and statements of Brahmaji as infallible. The Vedic knowledge is infallible because it comes down directly from the Supreme Lord unto the heart of Brahma. And since he is the most perfect living being, Brahmaji is always correct to the letter. And this is because Lord Brahma is a great devotee of the Lord who has earnestly accepted the lotus feet of the Lord as the supreme truth. In the Brahma Samhita, which is compiled by Brahmaji, he repeats the aphorism, Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. I am a worshipper of the original personality of Godhead, Govinda, the primeval Lord. So whatever he says, whatever he thinks, and whatever he does normally in his mood are to be accepted as truth because of his direct and very intimate connection with Govinda, the primeval Lord. Sri Govinda, who pleasingly accepts the loving transcendental service of his devotees, gives all protection to the words and actions of his devotees. The Lord declares in the Bhagavad Gita, Kaunteya pratijanihi. O son of Kunti, please declare it. The Lord asks Arjuna to declare. And why? Because sometimes the declaration of Govinda himself may seem contradictory to mundane creatures, but the mundaner will never find any contradiction in the words of the Lord's devotees. The devotees are especially protected by the Lord so that they may remain infallible. Therefore, the process of devotional service always begins in the service of the devotee who appears in disciplic succession. The devotees are always liberated, but that does not mean that they are impersonal. The Lord is a person eternally, and the devotee of the Lord is also a person eternally. Because the devotee has his sense organs even at the liberated stage, he is therefore a person always. And because the devotee's service is accepted by the Lord in full reciprocation, the Lord is also a person in his complete spiritual embodiment. The devotee's senses, being engaged in the service of the Lord, never go astray under the attraction of false material enjoyment. The plans of the devotee never go in vain, and all this is due to the faithful attachment of the devotee for the service of the Lord. This is a standard of perfection and liberation. Anyone, beginning from Brahmaji down to the human being, is at once put on the path of liberation simply by his attachment in great earnestness for the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord. The Lord affirms this in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 26. Mang chayo brahmacharena bhakti yogena sevati sagunaya samatitetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Anyone, therefore, who is earnestly serious in heart and soul about being in intimate touch with the personality of Godhead in the relationship of transcendental loving service will always be infallible in words and action. The reason is that the Supreme Lord is absolute truth, and anything earnestly dovetailed with the absolute truth attains the same transcendental quality. On the other hand, any amount of mental speculation on the strength of material science and knowledge without any bona fide touch with the absolute truth is sure to be a mundane untruth and failure, simply due to not being in touch with the absolute truth. Such godless, unfaithful words and actions, however materially enriched, are never to be trusted. That is the purport of this important verse. A grain of devotion is more valuable than tons of faithlessness. Oma Gnat Virandasya Jnana Gnashalakaya Chakshu Militam Jena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadatisva Parantikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirveshesha Sunyavari Paschatya Shitarini Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Padayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gaurātishe Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Right. So, the English translation again. O Nārada, because I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, hṛṣīkāṇi, with great zeal, whatever I say has never proved to have been false, nor is the progress of my mind ever deterred, nor are my senses ever degraded by temporary attachment to matter. Hare Krishna. So, this is Lord Brahma speaking to his son Nārada. Nārada had asked him a number of questions about the material energy, about the fact that he saw Brahma in meditation. So he asked the question about your meditation. Then there must be somebody you're meditating upon. And that person should be assumed to be superior to you. So who is that person? So all of these questions were being thrown by Narada Muni to Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma has answered these questions. And Lord Brahma's devotion is coming through. The great devotion of Lord Brahma to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is coming through based on the way that he's answering these questions put to him by Narada Muni, Brahma's son Narada Muni. So he said, O Nārada, because I've caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with great zeal. That's even a part of a sentence. Because he has caught hold of the lotus feet, therefore that is our first lesson. Lord Chaitanya says that in the Sri Shastra also. Very, very important statement. Asking that the Lord allows us to be placed as one of the atoms at his lotus feet. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mamishami bhavambuddha kripaya tava pada pankaja stita dulishari samvichintaya. Ainanda, O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I'm your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other, I've fallen into this ocean of birth and death. Ocean of birth and death means the material world. Then the statement, his prayer, please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. This is a prayer by the foremost devotee who is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, come as a pure devotee of the Lord, Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Teaching us how to be the best devotee just by following what he says. He preached, and he also showed by example the importance of chanting the holy name Nam Sankirtan in this Kali Yuga. He came in Kali Yuga 500, almost 40 years ago, 539 years ago. Next year will be 540 years. So he was teaching, and in this one prayer of 8 shlokas, in this 5th shloka, he says, place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. one of the atoms. So we are so small compared to Krishna. And that is a fact. But to be at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is where we need to be. And in this particular description here that Lord Brahma is explaining to Nārada, he says, because he is caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with great enthusiasm, which means there is no doubt in Lord Brahma's mind that that's what he needs to do. There should be no doubt in our minds that's what we need to do. And that's why Srila Prabhupada teaches us that when we see the deity of a Lord, we have to start at the lotus feet. Look at the lotus feet. That is mentally placing ourselves at the lotus feet of the Lord. And Lord Brahma, the most intelligent being in this material world, has said this. And here's what he's getting from totally surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What is he getting? Whatever he says has never proved to be false. Why? Because the Lord taught Vedic wisdom to Lord Brahma. Krishna taught Vedic wisdom to Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma is totally surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, what he speaks is what the Lord has spoken. And the Lord does not make any mistakes. Therefore, since Brahma is repeating what the Lord has said, then Brahma can, based on his surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord, he can make the statement that he doesn't make any mistakes in what he says, because he's repeating what the Lord has said. Lord Chaitanya also tells us in Chaitanya Charitamrita, be a guru, means be a shiksha guru. Shiksha means instruction. Be an instructing master. Instructing guru means instructing teacher. But he says, very important point, that don't change anything or contaminate anything with your own speculation. Don't change anything that I've said. Say it just like I've said it. Then you become the teacher, because you really become the transmitter of the Lord's message to everyone that comes in contact with you or everyone that you meet. So his mind, Lord Brahma says, is never deterred in his progress. There is spiritual growth. Everybody is always growing if they take this process seriously. There is growth that comes. There's realization that comes. There's happiness, internal happiness that comes. All of that is to purify our very being, our minds, and our intelligence. Turn our attention to the Supersoul. Get more realization from the Supersoul. Get realizations from the spiritual master. Therefore, the mind becomes progressive in that way. The mind controls the senses. And when the mind becomes progressive in spiritual life, then the senses follow automatically, also being involved in things that are positive towards spirituality. So he says his senses, this is Lord Brahma speaking, his senses are never degraded by temporary attachment to matter. Again, another instruction. He's talking about himself, true enough, because he's caught hold of a lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His senses are removed from material sense gratification. Temporary attachment to matter, as he puts it. So, Lord Brahma, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, is the perfect living being within the material world. He was born from Lord Vishnu. And he was given transcendental knowledge from Lord Vishnu. He was also given the science and the engineering knowledge about how to bring about the varieties in this universe. Lord Brahma This Lord Brahma that we have is, or we are that in this particular, the head of this particular universe. He is a devotee of the Lord through and through. He has been involved in so many pastimes, sometimes even Yogamaya, making him steal cowherd boys and cows, the cows from the pasturing ground. But with that pastime, the Lord proved who he was, and Brahma offered wonderful prayers. And Brahma, the most intelligent being, when he offers prayers, the prayers are wonderful in themselves. There's a compilation of Brahma's words, in poetic form, and that is in Brahma Samhita. Samhita means compilation. So Brahma's compilation of praise to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He describes the spiritual world. He describes so many things about the creation. Yashat Prabha Prabhavato Jagananda Koti. So many millions of planets. And it's all controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his multifarious energies. So the Vedic knowledge coming down from Brahma, first through Krishna to Brahma, is infallible, because the Lord, who is all knowing, omnipotent, omniscient, all the wonderful qualities that we know apply to the Lord in their fullest. And he's the one that taught Lord Brahma. And so Lord Brahma is just simply surrendered to Krishna, caught the lotus feet of Krishna, and therefore his senses and his mind are all tuned to what Krishna says, and he says it like it is. That's why he is correct to the letter. And that's why Srila Prabhupada puts it that way. So his Brahma Samhita, Chintamani Prakara Satmasu Kalpaviksha Lakshavatesu, it goes on so many wonderful ways he describes the spiritual world. Spiritual world is Chintamani. It's touchstone in itself. It's very wonderful. It's very effulgent. And everything is, as to put it in simple American language, is as pretty as it gets. There's nothing better in beauty than what's in the spiritual world. And by Lord Brahma's devotion, the Lord was pleased. So he showed Lord Brahma first the Vaikuntha planets, and then he showed Golok Vrindavan. And then there have been pastimes that Brahmaji has been involved in, even in the spiritual world. There was one in which Radha and Krishna, again, part of the pastimes, Krishna is, you see, the Radharani is actually the eternal consort of the Supreme Lord Krishna. And he's also the embodiment, the very personification of devotion to the Lord. So many pastimes occur between Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani. But sometimes Brahmaji is involved in it too. There was one in which there was a very nice, wonderful ceremony that Brahmaji, this was in the Goloka Vrindavan, and Brahmaji was invited to be the presiding person over this. And he gave some wonderful prayers in appreciation of Krishna, and in appreciation of Srimati Radharani, and in appreciation of their relationship between Radha and Krishna, which is the ultimate any and everywhere. So Lord Brahma started talking about, or in prayer form, he was praising, and he's praising the Lord, and he started, I take shelter of you, the original personality of Godhead. I take shelter. It's the first thing he said. I take shelter of you, original personality of Godhead. Sri Krishna Chandra. The moon-like face of Sri Krishna. Krishna is very, 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 very good looking. And Srimati Radharani talks about Krishna's beauty and how attracted she is to Krishna practically all of the time. So I take shelter of the original personality of Godhead Krishna. And then he talks about, this is Lord Brahma, talks about some of the qualities of the Lord. He says, Lord, dear Lord, you are affectionate to your devotees. That is something that we have to remember. Everyone in the spiritual world and in the material world everyone has a small amount of choice, free choice. Why? Because we are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is fully independent. Therefore, we also have a small amount of independence with which we can decide to either be attuned to material stuff, which of course Lord Brahma dissuades people from doing, or be attached to the internal energy of the Lord, spirituality, which is where Lord Brahma is at, and encourages everybody to be affectionate to your devotees. And then he said, you're a master of countless universes. And then he puts the Lord where he should be in terms of his ability. You're the greater than the greatest. Everywhere. The Lord is asamodva. Nobody comes to the level of the Lord. Nobody's at this level. So then he said, you are master of Golokadam. This is before the ceremony actually started. Lord Brahma is praying like that, praying to the Lord, appreciating the Lord, Srimati Radharani, together. He said to Krishna, you're master of Golokadam, and the Lord is there. And at that point, because of the nature of the ceremony, it was like a marriage ceremony. The Lord, Srimati Radharani is the eternal consort of the Lord, but we're talking about things that happen in the spiritual world, so different reasons, by the Lord's own supreme will, different things also happen. But in that time, Lord Brahma was invited. So he's looking at them as husband and wife. So he prayed like that. So husband of Radha. And then to give a little bit of sense of what goes on in the spiritual world, he says, you're the playful king of Vaikuntha, and she's your playful companion. So when you are, they began to describe different aspects of the Lord and how Srimati Radharani is complementary to him. So whatever the Lord does, the whole prayer is there. We won't go through the whole thing. It's quite long. Whatever the Lord does, Srimati Radharani is the counterpart to make it all complete in the Leela. So Lord Brahma is describing this. And later, he also describes the very color of the Lord. It's black, but he talks about it's a black splendor. He chooses his words to let us know the beauty of the Lord. Bluish black. And there are various levels of prema. Some of which describe what Srimati Radharani does. But anyway, that's some time we spent on this. Is coming back to this one. Because you can talk about Radha and Krishna, everything, hours and hours and hours. Lord Brahma is a great devotee of the Lord. He has earnestly accepted the lotus feet of the Lord. So, he uses his aphorism. Aphorism is like a statement that is a true statement and is known. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like that, the way we say here in America, this is a mundane example, but that's an aphorism. So there's some wisdom in it. But this spiritual aphorism, Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami, it means I'm a worshiper of the original personality of Godhead, Govinda, the primeval Lord. Govinda is Krishna, who gives pleasure to the cows and gives pleasure to the senses. That is the meaning of Govinda. And the Lord Brahma prefers to talk about Lord as Govinda. Very intimate name like that. So everything that the Lord Brahma says is accepted as truth because of his intimate connection with Govinda. And we can connect with Govinda through the guidance of the spiritual master. Very, very, very important. The spiritual master is the one that guides us. And in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 31, Kanteya patijanihi name bhakta pranashati. Krishna is saying, Arjun, you declare, my devotee never perishes. So whatever happens in this crazy material world in Kali Yuga, once you are a firm believer, your faith is very high in Krishna, then whatever happens, whether they are reversals or things that we like, or that's easy for us to connect with or live life with, we still should understand at all times that the Lord protects us. He says, my devotee never perishes. So all we have to do is be a devotee of the Lord. Have great faith in the Lord, serve the Lord, and he will be there for you. If I do that, he'll be there for me. My devotee never perishes. And Srila Prabhupada says, devotees are especially protected by the Lord. Because, as Lord Brahma said in that particular prayer in the marriage ceremony in Golok Vrindavan, he said, you are affectionate to your devotees. The Lord who owns everything is affectionate to his devotees. But think about that. Everything is created by the Lord. But devotees are especially those ones who have turned their attention to the Lord and surrendered to the Lord and live life that way. Even those devotees who are in the material world, that's us, we're trying to use only what's necessary in the material energy. But our main energy and main focus mentally, from the body, from the mind, from the senses, are connected to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We should never play with devotional service. We are all in our different levels of growth, true enough, in bhakti. We can help each other to grow. But anyone who thinks, I do service, but as soon as you bring but into this, you're caught by Maya. And as soon as you bring but, then more than likely, you're going to be involved in something that is not done to the best of your ability. But that's not devotional service. Devotional service is service to the best of the ability with the aim of pleasing Guru and pleasing Krishna. Not that you start something and you start saying, oh, but this is happening. And the but is always followed by something material. As my spiritual master, Bhakti Maharaj, explained, devotees are in Maya when, one, they get lazy, and two, they don't have compassion. These two. Anyone who is lazy is in Maya. Anyone who doesn't have compassion, they don't care about others, they don't empathize with others, that person is in Maya. Lazy means physically, the physical service is not being done properly. And lack of compassion means mentally and from the heart, we're not really into the welfare of devotees and the quality of service to put out. That's Maya. So we have to get out of the laziness. We have to get out of lack of compassion. We have to be compassionate, and we should be more enthused when it comes to service. Just like Lord Brahma says here. I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Lord, and then he qualifies it. This is in the translation. I've caught hold of the lotus feet of personality of Godhead with great zeal. Lazy people don't have great zeal. That's why we're saying lazy, you're now caught the personality, the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead with the intensity that we need to. There is no excuse. We may have imperfect senses, but we have to be very, very enthusiastic in everything we do. Otherwise, we are already in Maya. Sometimes we think we're serving, oh, so that I'm okay. But what's the quality of the service? That's what we're talking about here. Service has to be done, true. Better than that, it has to be done with great enthusiasm, with an aim to do the best that we can. That's real service. The service should be such that Krishna will be very happy about it. Sometimes devotees, if it's something that is people see, externally, many people get to see about that particular service, you will see devotees begin to make comments. This has been done very nicely. The Lord has been dressed very nicely. The curtains have been sewed very nicely. The quality of service given is wonderful service. Sometimes devotees would notice that and even say something about it. And so the advice is given. Yesterday, we were talking about some things that came up about whatever that is important for my success in spiritual life, Lord, please bring it onto me. And whatever that needs to be removed, that is an impediment, take it away. But also, we can add this prayer. Let me always be enthusiastic in serving. You see, what happens is that when we serve, and we serve with lackluster, and the thing is, after a while, that seems to be the way in which we're going. Then what's going to happen is that the Lord will arrange for services to be taken away. When services are being taken away, that is a sign. Don't read it from a material standpoint. Because if you're reading it from a material standpoint, the man really has stolen your intelligence. Don't read it from a material standpoint. If services are being taken away, there's something about the quality that you're putting into the service that you had before that was not pleasing, not to management, to the deities. It's the deities that do that. Deities are planning to take it away from you. The quality has to be good at all times. The other side of it is when you do things with the heart into it, then more service comes. Why? Because more service means more spiritual credits. More spiritual credits is closer and closer to the spiritual world we're going. So when somebody gets lazy about the service, or they don't put in the best that they can, or they allow Maya to say, oh, well, this doesn't quite fit the way I look at my life, therefore, material reason, I'm not going to do it. I have service to do. Oh, but I have this other place to go to also. And that's more fun. So I'm going to drop my service. The fact of the matter is that anyone that gets service to really please the Supreme Personality of Godhead will have some challenges, material challenges associated with the service. Not all the time, but there'll be parts of it that Krishna wants you to prove that you really care about him in order to do the service. You really want to do service out of care. Therefore, the challenges come. And you don't have to look far. We all know this. What did the Pandavas not go through? We just read about them. But whatever it is, that was supposedly a material stumbling block. Maharaj Yudhishthira took it. Maharaj Yudhishthira kept the proper etiquette, even when he was relating to a king that was biased, obviously biased, Dhritarashtra. Still, he went through what he had to go through based on the proper way of relating, based on etiquette. And force his brothers to also do things based on etiquette. Then the Supreme Personality of Godhead was there all of the time, even doing menial service for them. This is the Krishna we're talking about here. So if he will go to the extent of being there for the Pandavas, and Krishna is equal to everyone. Krishna is equal to everyone means he doesn't only serve the Pandavas, he serves everybody that puts their mind and their heart totally in submission to serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead and obeying his instructions. Everyone. He's equal to everyone. So that's one thing we need to remember. So the Lord Brahma, is described by Srila Prabhupada as a perfect liberated living being, liberated mentally, because of how he relates to the Lord and how he speaks about the Lord. So we have to be very, very, very much in touch with the pure devotees and what they do. Then we are liberated, even while we're here in this material world. Mam chayu vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunaya samatitetam brahmuyaya kalpate. Everybody who is seriously in heart and soul about serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead is already in intimate touch with the Personality of Godhead. And their relationship is solid, even with these senses that are imperfect. Still, the mind surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the one that leads the senses. So if the mind is fully surrendered, then everything else follows in our actions. So the Supreme Personality of God, as Srila Prabhupada says, the words of Lord Brahma are infallible because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the absolute truth. And when we dovetail with the absolute truth, what we're doing, then we attain the same transcendental quality. The example is fire. An iron rod is an iron rod, cold iron rod. But if you put it in fire, after a while, not only does it become hot like the fire is, it becomes red like the fire is. And if in that point, if you take that red hot iron rod and touch it to paper, it will burn the paper immediately, just like the regular fire, the original fire can burn the paper, which means the quality of fire has now been transferred to the piece of iron. So the Lord is compared to the fire then. If we repeat the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then you'll also be correct. Just like the iron rod was not the fire, but because it was in the fire, it got the same type of quality as the fire. So we have to repeat the Supreme Personality of Godhead's words. The easiest to convince anyone, and there were a couple of devotees I'll talk about them with Papa disciples that did this. The easiest is to convince devotees and everybody else to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Two devotees, one of them I knew, his name is Bhutabhavana Prabhu. Right now he's left the body. He was in Alachua. I met him in Alachua and later on in North Carolina. And he was telling me that they traveled to the continent of Africa, different countries. They didn't even have Srila Prabhupada's books, but they were distributing pamphlets and magazines, Back to Godhead magazines. And they were saying two things. Chant Hare Krishna, Krishna is God. At that time, very early in the movement, they didn't have much knowledge themselves, but only these two statements, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna is God, and their body language was very inviting. They had big smiles on their faces. And they were telling people, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna is God, Krishna is God, Krishna is God, chant Hare Krishna. They were giving these out. And Hare Krishna mantra was on the flyers they were giving out. And the Back to Godhead magazines, for those who wanted to know more about Krishna, they were distributing that. No books. Just that. And a lot of people got caught in bhakti just from that statement they were making. Those two statements were true. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in Kali Yuga, you chant the Hare Krishna mantra. So literally those two statements, they caught fire. They literally caught fire, and they were just distributing and distributing. And the more people took, and they were just big smiles in their faces. They gave so much out. So it's all about the importance of Krishna consciousness in our own minds. How seriously we take it. And then Srila Prabhupada ends a wonderful statement at the end of his purport. A grain of devotion is more valuable than tons of faithlessness. Words that are material, that don't have much of any effect on our spiritual life. Godless, unfaithful words and actions. And if I might add, from my own experience dealing with people who are in the scientific world, many assumptions. Many assumptions that they're involved in. It's been put under the nice big word called hypothesis. Hypothesis is just an assumption. They don't know whether it's true. They're going to try to use some experiments to prove whether what they've said is true or not. God does not start with hypotheses. God talks about He is the absolute truth. So what you hear is the truth, not something that's an assumption that's going to be proven later on, right or wrong, by some experiments. So that is godless, unfaithful words, assumptions. And they could be materially enriched, but they don't serve any good purpose for our salvation. So a grain of devotion, a little bit of devotion, is more valuable than tons of all of these things. And if you're very observant, you realize that so-called science, they tell us they're progressing, but actually things are getting worse and worse and worse. And the parts that are worse, that they hide. Very few people talk about the truth or bold enough to talk about the truth. But this world is going to hell in a handbasket, as they say in America. So we learn the truth. The spiritual master is the one that teaches the truth, and that's why we learn the truth by approaching the spiritual master. He's not going to contaminate the truth in any way. And our mood should be to inquire submissively, ask all questions submissively, and then serve him, because it's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we serve the Lord, when we serve the spiritual master, we are serving the Lord in practice. Their whole program is how to spread Krishna consciousness. Therefore, if we serve him in whatever way that is pleasing to him, then we are helping him to push the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Self-realized souls, they can impart the truth to you because they've seen the truth. So in Sanskrit, tat piti paripatena paripashtena seva upadekshanti te jnanam janina tattva darshana. Learn the truth by approaching the spiritual master. And Lord Chaitanya has charged everybody. Speak the truth just like I've spoken. Don't contaminate anything with some assumptions. As soon as you put assumptions, you'll be like the scientists who make all kinds of assumptions, and they call it hypotheses. They don't know whether it's true or not, but that's their life. Spiritual life starts with the truth. When you catch the lotus feet of the Lord, like Lord Brahma said to Nārada that he did, then we also speak the truth. So, in the disciplic succession, from Brahma down to Nārada, and Nārada went to Vyasa, and the list goes on down to Srila Prabhupada and to our spiritual masters. The truth is being passed down. And we also should convey the message like that. Chant Hare Krishna, understand that Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam, he is the one who owns all six opulences in full. Wealth, beauty, knowledge, and so on. Wealth, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation is the four of them. There's a couple more. This escapes my mind right now. But we shouldn't be involved in mental speculation. The other two are fame and strength. Those are the two that add to the other four, six. And we have to approach the spiritual master and get knowledge from the spiritual master and use it to live life. Then we'll be happy. We have to submissively inquire. Never debate or argue with the spiritual master. We do that, then inquiries from a spiritual master will not be effective. And you might hear this statement and say, well, I'll never think about doing something like that with the spiritual master. But I've got news for you. I have heard devotees do that. Go into a spiritual master says this, they also say this, says this, and then it says in the rebuttal. Then everyone that I know, and only a few devotees I saw do that, they don't have much of a spiritual life now. They literally have blues. It's all about how we behave towards the spiritual master. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead's personal representative. When we are speaking to Guru, in our mind, we should behave exactly like when Krishna is in front of us, how we will behave. Then we'll be in the right mood. So Lord Brahma is saying he's caught the lotus feet of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya says, place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. That's where we need to be. And we have to serve in full surrender and with great enthusiasm. Then our spiritual life will actually not only be sweet, but we will have so many realizations. We will then become very happy inside, even while we're here in this material world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you all for coming this morning here. And this is the time now, if you want to share some realizations or ask questions, you can do. Hare Krishna. So unmute yourself if you want to.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All
Except
wishes
mine,
for
boy. Prabhupada.
Thank you for such a wonderful class. Especially, I was really appreciating the point of how Lord Brahma was praising the Lord, with such beautiful praises, and I mean, it almost seems and appears that the praises are much longer than the need, than the intent of the prayer. You know what I mean? Like sometimes as devotees, when you make prayers, asking the Lord for help or this or that, or, whatever it is, we tend to go into the request, very quickly, but we forget to praise the Lord. And here Lord Brahma is giving such a wonderful example of what it means to praise the Lord and his glories and his position and everything before making the request for the prayer and then concluding it with wonderful praises. So I was really appreciating. I mean, it was such a beautiful praise, like praises actually. It was very, very nice. So thank you for reading and sharing and also expanding on the prayers by, the praises, from Lord Brahma to the Lord. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Very, very important. So I have to unmute myself. So it's very important that we learn from teachers, acharyas, beginning from Lord Brahma himself. And Lord Brahma's, what he has taught us has been, put in the Shastra so many times, so many places where he's relating to the Lord, where he's actually giving prayers by the Lord, where he's directing people. So many things the Lord Brahma does. We're very fortunate to be in a universe with the pure devotee of the Lord Brahma, as tops. And there are Brahmas in different universes. They're not necessarily of the same caliber as the pure devotee of the Lord. That's another whole thing that we maybe another time we can discuss that. But not every Lord Brahma is a pure devotee. This Lord Brahma of this universe is a pure devotee. And that's why his sampradaya we follow, his school, Brahma Gaudiya, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya sampradaya. So we're fortunate to have Lord Brahma, this particular universe. And at this time, when Lord Chaitanya was also been here, and the fact that arrangement has now been made, the way is open for us to go back to the spiritual world and to Golok Vrindavan, that particular planet. So it's all a question of us taking advantage of what we have now, so that we can get to the most versatile spiritual planet of all of them, Golok Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. Any other
I
questions or
think,
comments?
like you mentioned, was really important, that that we learn from the teachers, that point that you just responded to my initial comment, was so important, because in spiritual life, we learn from our acharyas, we learn from our teachers, we learn from our seniors, just like in the material world, right? Like we spend like 12 years in school and 4 years in college, sometimes 6 years in college. And whatever we have learned in that, 16 to 18 years of being in school, we apply that in our material jobs. I mean, if you were to put that together, 12 years of school and 4 to 6 years of college, that's about 16 to 18 years. And we spend 18 years of our material life in school education to get a job. And then whatever we learn, we apply it because we are taught by our teachers. And the similar point goes to the Krishna consciousness, like whatever we are taught by our teachers, by our acharyas, our gurus, when we read, we learn from that and we apply it. So we are not our own teacher. We have to learn from our teachers and apply it, and also, give gratitude to those teachers, give praises and thanks to those teachers. So that was a very good point that you mentioned, is, learning from our teachers, from our seniors, from the acharyas. So yeah, that was one of my other takeaway from your comment, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, it's very important to learn, because the ones that teach also practice what they teach. And that's so wonderful. Lord Chaitanya came and he was preaching and he was also practicing, so that we will learn how to properly practice this whole devotion. The royal path, as my Guru Maharaj likes to put it, the royal path of devotion, Bhakti Marga. That will give us the happiness that we need in our lives. We are always seeking it. But Lord Brahma, in this point here, is just giving us so much. He says, I take shelter of you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Anadi Adi Govinda, without beginning, but the beginning of everything. And so many points that he said, the Golok Vrindavan is it's a very playful place. That was the point Lord Brahma was saying, that Krishna is the playful king of Golok, and Srimati Radharani is the playful companion of Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada is sending us to a place where love and beauty and effulgence and play and happiness and dancing and singing, all of that at all times, increasing in intensity at all times. Increasing in intensity happens. That is Golok Vrindavan. And in so many ways, when Lord Brahma was talking about Radha and Krishna together, he said, when you come as Ramachandra, then Radha is Sita. Sita and Ram, Janak's daughter, King Janak's daughter. And in so many other pastimes, of course, Lord Brahma would know it. Lord Hari, Srimati Radharani's Kamala, When the Lord is Yagyavatā, Srimati Radharani is Sri Dakshin, and so many other pastimes that we didn't even know, like in Shingadev, then Radharani is Rama. When the Lord is Narayan Rishi, then Srimati Radharani is Goddess Shanti, like that. Even when the Lord is Brahman for the material world, then Srimati Radharani is Prakriti. So everywhere that the Lord assumes in a certain way, Srimati Radharani is in fact with him. Even though we know the transcendental aspect of it, the little bit of it is shared in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But he shares, Sri Prabhupada shares it with also the point that we've got to know what spirituality, bhakti is about from the lotus feet of the Lord, first canto, second canto, like we're in the second canto now, before we get to the rest of the cantos up to the 10th canto. Then 10th canto is the smiling face of the Lord. Then 11th and 12th cantos are so many points about spirituality and also what's about to happen in the material world. Srimad Bhagavatam is the sum total of great knowledge. Hare Krishna. Any other points or questions or realizations?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my
Hare
humble
Krishna. Accept my obeisances, Lord Shri Prabhupada.
all glories to the devotees on the call. Yeah. Very nice class. Actually, talked about like 3-4 themes, like the prayers, like it's more of a glorification and little bit of a request. And then the other theme was that how wonderful, like the pastimes of like Krishna and his consort and various like appearances. And then later on you talked about the book distribution of like the Prabhupada disciples, how they did it. It was wonderful. I was remembering Radharaman Prabhu from ISKCON of Boise, Idaho. He went to ISKCON Silicon Valley. I don't remember. I think it was last year, like towards the November, December time frame, I guess. So he gave a 3-session seminar regarding the process of praying. It was like in detail. He went into depths of all these prayers, and how we glorify and request, and like the what is the last thing after the prayers and everything. It was very wonderful actually, that seminar. I remembered that seminar. I was with Jit Mitra Prabhu. We were having lunch. It was a wonderful time hearing that class actually. And after that, like it was one session we heard on the lunch table, and then later on separately we heard the other 2 sessions. So, but it was very nice, and like we had a very nice time. Like it was like a Sunday feast for us. So that was one thing, and then second thing, I I tend to ask this question, like um we I cannot compare myself to Prabhupada disciples, so I don't know if just going around and saying, and even the person in front of me when I'm going for book distribution, and if I just go and keep on like saying that thing, like how Prabhupada disciples did it, like that Krishna is God, and like Hare Krishna is the Yuga Dharma. I don't know if that will my I have that potency to distribute that or to touch that many souls. So is there anything more that you would recommend to do, or you know anything more, or whatever? What are your suggestions, I would say? I think Prabhuji, you're on mute.
The first is your body language. Thank you. Very important to have wonderful body language. And how do you do it? My spiritual master was doing it so well. The body the boys were talking about it. He just smiles. When you meet someone who knows that you're a stranger, and you are a stranger to him, and he's a stranger to you, or he or she's a stranger to you, the first thing you do is put a big smile on your face. Smile is very effective in terms of making the person more receptive to what you're going to say. Mm-hmm. And so the first thing is to show that enthusiasm by having a smile on your face. Mm-hmm. Then greet the person. This is just normal etiquette. Greet the person. And when you're smiling and greeting the person, immediately you relax that person. This is someone, they'll begin to think this is someone that's a nice person. Simply because they smile. And simply because you greet it. And then they know you're going to tell them something. And you just simply describe, this is what we're doing. Hmm? We're distributing books of the highest yoga that you can find anywhere. And then you get into your description. Whatever book that you're holding, this book is about so and so and so. And by the way, there are some techniques that I learned from a very rather extensive sales course that I took early in my life. And some parts of it, since you're talking to people and you're trying to get them to get interested in crystal consciousness, and you're going to give them something. One of the things that this book distributor should remember and do is when you describe in short what you're doing, then when you're holding the book, you just point out, hopefully you can see, it says here. So you're holding a book. Here's, and I'm trying to grab a book just to demonstrate that. Yeah. So this book is the Science of Self-Realization. You go here. Once you go here, point to the person. The reflex from the person is to take the book because you're handing it to them. You take the book. Now, once you hand the book to them, guess what? They own it because you're not going to take it back. A person that won't take a book, if you try to hand the book to them, they will immediately kind of say no, and then they will walk away. So you know that person is not interested. But many people, if they have stopped because you smiled and you greeted them, and then you talk about we are distributing books of the highest level of yoga. Here, this is a book, Science of Self-Realization. Here. As soon as you hear, then they have it. And then you begin to talk a little bit about the book. And then, so they'll be interested, says these. Then, of course, you can ask later on when you finish describing some things and invite them to ask questions about it. They want to know some things more about it, or where we are and so on. If you have flyers, you can give flyers. If you have business cards, type, with the information about the temple, you can give all of those you can. But the first thing is when you describe what we're doing, and then you hand the book to them. Here, that expression here, they'll take it, and then that's it. Before they leave, you can ask for, well, we don't sell these books, but we ask for a donation in order to be able to print more books for other people to spread. So if you could be kind enough to give whatever you want. It would say how much, whatever you find, it's up to you, whatever. And then you can take it at that point, and then, that's it. You can tell them where we are, or if they want to know more about us, we have, and then as soon as you describe the temple, describe the times, the program, and don't forget to talk about the prasad, free vegetarian feast. So this is some of the points that comes to mind. Hare Krishna. Any other questions? If not, then thank you very much for coming on. And every day when we hear, and every weekday we come.
Can I say something? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
When it comes to Prabhupada's books, It's very important that what we are giving, we have read the book. And I think that has been a problem in many temples, you know, that book distributors, you know, when when we are giving a book, we should read the book. If we haven't read the book, there's no point giving a book. It's like a salesman. If we work for Macmillan or any of those big time printing companies, when we are a salesman for a particular book, we should know what the book is about. We should have read the book. Like if we are doing salesman for any company, even for, I've seen doctor's office, they get a lot of salespeople coming in with new medicines and new products and new injections and whatever. And the salesman is educating the doctors and the director of nursing and what have you about the medicine because they have knowledge of it, they have studied it. So it's one thing is that Damodar is very important. This goes for anybody who's actually doing book distribution, is if we have not read the book, we don't know what we are telling them. We should know, because someone can open a page in a book and says, what does this mean? And if we cannot answer it, then that shows that we did not read the book. So one point that Prabhupada says is we have to read his books. Only then can we distribute. If we haven't read the book, we cannot distribute it. So that is a very key point that Prabhupada, the founder Acharya, is saying repeatedly. So that is the key point. If we have read the book, then we can give it because we have Prabhupada's mercy. Prabhupada says, my mercy comes through my books. So if we do not read the books, then we cannot give the book because we don't have enough knowledge of it, which means Prabhupada's mercy is not there. But if we give the books because we have read it, once we have read Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada's mercy will flow. So Prabhupada's mercy is directly related to what we have read from his books and how we give out. Hare Krishna.
Very important point. Very important point. You do have to know about the book. So when we say here and you hand the book to them, the person is not going to open the pages right away. At that point, you have to give a short summary about what the book talks about and how it will be beneficial to that person. That is definitely part of the presentation. It's important. I'm glad you brought that up. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Any other final comments? If not, then thank you very much and have a nice, wonderful Krishna conscious weekend. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you again. Hare Krishna.